Okay, it's lesson 2. Percents and fractions. This is great. So up here above the line, lesson 2, percents and fractions. Remember, when you're doing this, pause it so you can keep up. My words matter that come out of my mouth, but the words that I write down too are super important. So make sure you're listening and writing. Pause and rewind as you need to. That's totally fine. Here's today's essential question, right? EQ. Essentially what we're working on is how do I convert percents to fractions or fractions to percents? So the key words in there are convert, percents to fractions, and fractions to percents. So a piece of vocab for today is the word percent. When we talk about the word percent, what we're talking about is a ratio that compares a number to 100. So when we talk about percents, like the first thing that comes to my mind in terms of school is like test grades. You want to get a 90% on a test. That's 9 out of every 10 questions right, or 90 out of 100 questions right. You want to get an 80% is not so bad either. That means you're above average. 70% you're average. Anything below that we're not talking about. All right, so when we're doing this, percent is that number, comparing a number to out of 100. Okay? Then an example is this. 80% means 80 out of 100, which means we can write the fraction 80 100ths. All right, so let's do some of this work now. Remember, pause at any time if you need to, because that's the whole point of this. Where's my eraser? Eraser! There you are. I'm not going to erase it. All right, let me bring this in. Percents as fractions. So a new section on your page. You're down a little further on the page. You wrote your vocab. You wrote that example, that quick example. Now we're just one level lower. You're going to write percents as fractions right in the middle there, kind of underline it. And this is what we're going to do. First step, write this down. Write the percent over 100. Then we simplify. This is really easy, right? This is not, we're not really doing any calculation here or thinking about calculations. We're just doing write it over 100 and then simplify it. These are tools that we know how to use. So my first example here is 17%. So I'm going to write that as 17 over 100. Now, can 17 and 100, can we simplify those? Do they have a common factor? My first question always is 17 even? It's not even. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, 17, I don't think 17 has any factors. It doesn't come up in my head in terms of my times tables. So I think that's it, 17 over 100. Then I've got 42%, so that's 42 over 100. And I always do my first thing is, are they even? Because if they're even, we can divide them both by 2. So I'm going to cut them in half, then that makes sense to me. So divide by 2, divide by 2, and I'm making an equivalent fraction to be 21 over 50. Now I know 21 is 3 times 7. And 3 and 7 are not going to go into 50 evenly for me. So that's my answer. I just converted that. All right, 75%. Now this is one of those ones, we're going to write 75 over 100. This is one of those ones where I always go back to this idea of how many quarters in a dollar, because quarters are worth 25. There's 4 quarters in a dollar, so 25, 25, 25. 25 is 100, so 25, 50, 75, these are all kind of easy. So we're going to divide them both by 25. Now if you didn't know that, you could divide it by 5, and then divide it by 5 again. That's totally fine. But for me, I'm just going to go divide by 25, divide by 25, and there are 3 25s in 75, and there are 4 25s in 100. Okay, so that's going from percent to fraction. Now we're going to go from fraction to percent. So the opposite direction. And I think you can kind of see it here. So before I even bring the next slide in, you can kind of see it here what we would do. If we had 3/4, we would multiply numerator and denominator by 25 to get 75 100ths, which we could rewrite as 75%. All right, so that's I'm just showing you early, right? You can go this way, or you can go this way. It's just a difference in how we do this calculation in the middle. All right, let me get the next slide. Hold on. Oh, I use 17 again. So now we're down another level, and you're writing fractions as percents. Putting the line under it, that's like a subheading now. Now we know that's a section that matters. And then here's my first example, 17 over 100. We got a denominator that's already 100. That's easy. We just write 17%. Simple, not too bad. What we're going to do for this, so write this on your paper, use equivalent fractions to make a denominator of 100. Now I'm going to highlight that 100 because that's the key. That's the whole thing about percents. It's out of 100, always out of 100. And I don't know if you notice this, but you know what a penny is, right? A penny is 1 cent. And there are 100 cents in a dollar. That's why we say percent. Maybe. I don't know. I kind of made that up. I think it's right. I don't really know. You be the judge. Wikipedia! All right, maybe they... don't check Wikipedia. All right. Then, let me get back on track. Use equivalent fractions to make a denominator of 100. Then, write it as a percent. That's all we're doing. Right? The key, though, is this part, the equivalent fractions. We've got to get it to be the thing that we want it to be so we can turn it into a denominator of 100. All right, I'm going to move this. I'm going to erase my first slide, and we're going to do this on this page. First thing we're going to do is make a little chart that we can work with. It's like a really specialized multiplication chart. And that's for how we're going to make equivalent fractions. So it's a double T. All right, and then the fractions that we work with, they're all basically going to have, for our purposes here, a set of denominators. First denominator. So 2, 4, 5, 10, 20, 25, and 50. So if we have this denominator, and then I'm going to write in here, we do this, and then up here I'm going to write second denominator. Now, if you need to, pause. Totally fine. So, what the second denominator is we're trying to making equivalent fractions, right? Making equivalent. Oh, I hope you can still see this. Fractions with denominator 100. That's kind of the title. I kind of screwed that up. My bad. Let's get this one. Let's try this one. Who knows? So the second denominator is always going to be, because we're making percents, the second denominator is always going to be 100. We always want to get this to 100. Hi, Miss Benoit.
Good morning.
We always want to get to 100. So now we're just filling this part in. 2 times what would be 100? 2 times 50. 4 times what would be 100? 4 times 25. 5 times what? 5 times 20. 10 times what? 10 times 10. 20 times what? Oh, that's right back up here. 5 times 5. 25 times what? That's right back up here. 4 times 4. 50 times what? Times 2. Okay? Now, here's some examples. Now, for you, I would go lower on the page. For me, I'm kind of stuck with the board. So just below this, this is where you can do examples. So I'm going to put A, B, and C. Those 3. And A is going to be, let's do this one first. 3/4. Go back and check my chart. So my denominator needs to be 100. So I can actually just write this now. I know this needs to be 100. How is my 4 going to be 100? Here's my 4 times 25 equals 100. So times 25. And I know what you're thinking, right? Like, Mr. Romanovich, I think I did that one. Like, I honestly think I did that one. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. So times 25, if it's an equivalent fraction, we have to multiply numerator and denominator by the same number. 3 times 25 is, I know we did this. I probably did this like 3 seconds ago. Is 75, which we can then write as 75%. Ms. Benoit, can you still see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Don't go any further.
Okay. So 3/4, multiply numerator and denominator by 25. And then you've got 75 hundredths, which gives us 75%. Where's that orange? This orange is awesome. Pause it if you need to. Bye-bye. Next one I put up here is 7/20. 7/20. Let me check my 20ths over here. 20, multiply by 5. Okay, so I know what I want here at the end is 100. So times 5 times 5. 7 times 5 is 35, which means 35%. Last one. Now notice here, I'm not simplifying. Don't simplify here. I'm just leaving that there. I'm like, you don't have to write that, but it's okay to have that one because the key is this. We're always trying to get that denominator of 100. All right, last one. Let's use the purple. And I've got 23 25ths. And I know my my denominator is going to be 100. So where's my 25s here? 25 times 4. So times 4 times 4. I know that's true because I did the math already. Now this one I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm going to do some side math. 23 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 2 plus 1 is 92. 92%. And that's our goal. 92% on our test. Okay. Get this done, and then we'll do some practice with it. Good luck.